Hello, everybody, and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43, and tonight we are back in the Mighty Hood. That's right. You guys asked for it, so here it is. Once again, back by popular demand. Our commander is going to be Azure Lane Nelson, with Andrew Cunningham, Paolo DeRevel as our inspirations. We are running Flammable Cannoneer, gyrating drill bits. Again, this is an AP-centric battleship for the British, so I do not run the Big 7 skill because I need that extra penetration for my shells, right? Firefighter, Master Mechanic, fight fire with fire. As far as the rest, we've got Aiming System Mod 1. We've got Propulsion Mod. And we have Concealment System Mod. Okay. The camo, I think, is the historic camo. If there's anybody out there wondering, I have several different camos, but that's the one that I tend to run is the historic camo. But as you can see, like there's a couple of different camos for this thing. This, I believe, is actually the historic camo. I don't know what this is then. This is the historic camo before it was sunk, and then this is supposed to be the battle version of the camo, if you guys are ever interested. But anyway, I'm not gonna disrespect the hood that way. I'm just gonna go with the old school Type 9 camo. But anyway, with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Neighbors, and we are in HMS Hood. Now, I've always said that HMS Hood is one of the most underrated battleships at Tier 6. Like, it just is. It's a very good battle cruiser. It's quick, it's decently agile, it packs a punch, it's got decent accuracy most of the time. It will troll you occasionally. We're not running a full accuracy build, keep that in mind. But overall, it's a good ship, man. And I like its ability to move around, right? Now, this match is going to be unique in the fact that there are no destroyers, and we're on a large map, okay? This is a perfect opportunity for the Hood to showcase what it is capable of, as long as I'm not the only one, okay? And we're going to showcase a little bit of that in a moment. So, as we push towards the left flank, you're going to notice early on that we're going to have quite a bit of help around us. There's a battleship that spawns near us in an Alabama. There is a light cruiser in the mines. And then there's a heavy cruiser in the Riga that is near us. Now here we take a shot at the Bismarck. Now to the credit of this Bismarck player, he decides that going forward is not going to be in his best interest. So he slows down and stops. So all of our shells end up missing, having led him too much. Now obviously we're going to go ahead and try to turn out. You can see that the Alabama and I believe it's the mines, are on top of one another at the moment. Or maybe it's the Riga, I'm not sure. One of them is closest and the other one is coming in later. But right off the bat, you can see I'm very, very concerned about this Georgia shooting me. Now obviously he took shots at the other guys. You can see we are going to bump into somebody here. Again, not sure if this is the Riga or the mines. I don't really know it by the look of it without looking at it. I just know that we end up with both a Riga and a mines over here and an Alabama. Now, you can see right now I'm feeling very, very self-conscious. All right? Why? Because I can't maneuver my motherfucking ship. I've got a cruiser on the inside of me. I got a battleship on the outside of me. There's nowhere for me to go here. Now, this Cleveland, I thought he was going to back up, and I was correct in assuming he was going to back up. But unfortunately, I end up shooting too far forward anyway. He ends up getting out of there, and I'm only taking one hit. But you can see I'm in trouble here. Fortunately, this Alabama next to us is probably going to be the most competent player on this flank other than me. And that's namely just due to the fact that, like, the other two people, I don't know what was going on over here. I just don't, right? This Alabama, I mean, it's going to do Alabama thing. All he has to do is make sure he aims, and he's going to have a field day. A lot of squishy targets out here, and there's going to be plenty of broadsides. But as I'm trying to angle, because I know what's happening, right? Like, we got a Cleveland here, we got a freaking Ochakov here, we got a Georgia on its way over, and unfortunately I'm about to find out that we also have a North Carolina here. There's a lot of firepower against me, and I don't want to be the front runner in a match where everyone around me is a tier 7. Like, this is not ideal. Obviously, the North Carolina is a tier 6, but, like, you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to be the center of attention with 2 DPM cruisers and 2 very punchy battleships, right? We want to keep our distance a little bit. We want to take flanks where we can. But as you can see, like, this thing fully capable of punching people with impunity if given an opportunity. And I just made a rhyme, so let me know if you got the time. All right, I'm done. Anyway, as we try to push up, we're going to try to use the island, but we've got to try to stay angled here as best we can. Because I know that the Georgia has a fast reload. We know that the North Carolina is there. I don't want to be taking unnecessary damage. So this ends up meaning that I'm going to take damage from the cruisers a little bit more. But I've got to try to get away and disengage from these guys. I'm losing this fight with the DPM that's against us, right? Like, it's not ideal. But I'm going to do something that I don't do very often, that a lot of people ask me about as we ricochet the armor piercing off of what I can only assume was the North Carolina off of our belt, which is something that a lot of people don't understand about this ship, is it has a very good armor belt, and it sits very low in the water, meaning that if you angle properly, this thing's actually pretty tanky when it wants to be. But Alabama reaches out and absolutely crushes that freaking Cleveland for daring to stick his nose back in where it doesn't belong. And it's about this point you're going to see me get into chat. And I simply tell everybody around me, I'm like, look, guys, I'm in a tier 6. You guys are in tier 7s. Why am I the only one taking hits here? Like, if you guys aren't going to play, I'm simply going to leave you guys, right? And I know that the Alabama just slapped that Cleveland. But again, he's in a tier 7 battleship. He's got 32 millimeters of armor everywhere. He is the one guy that can actually tank this. I'm in a tier 6. The Georgia overmatches me, the North Carolina overmatches me, and the freaking cruisers pin me everywhere, right? So it's not a good situation for me to be at the front. And none of these guys are in a hurry to actually be useful. Again, I understand and recognize that the Alabama is doing Alabama things. But for the rest of them, God only knows what's going on. But we get a shot here at the North Carolina, and I'm not going to lie to you. What happens next is textbook freaking being a tier 6 and a tier 7 lobby. I take a beautiful shot, get a great hit, and then I get immediately citadeled by the Georgia, who I can't even see despite the fact that he just pulled the trigger, meaning that that man fired that shot as he's leaving his own firing range. Right? He cannot fire at me again at the moment because he's too far away, because otherwise he would have been spotted. Right? But, yeah, that's just unfortunate side effects of playing as a Tier 6 battleship in a Tier 7 lobby. You're going to get outranged. Like, they simply are going to be able to shoot further than you most of the time. So, despite all of this, I have to counter-rotate. Look at the right flank. We have another Alabama in the center, and unfortunately, he just yoinked it out of my North Carolina. But he's in the center of the map in his Alabama. We have Alabama on the left flank. Now, to the credit of the Alabama, he's not going to leave this flank. He is going to push that flank, which is exactly what I needed him to do when I was over there, but he decided he didn't want to do such things, so I left. I'm counter-rotating. I've already made up my decision, right? The right side is going to need some help, so we're going to go over and see if we can't help them. Meanwhile, the Mines has doubled back and is running alongside us here. And the Riga, I think, is here as well. Or maybe that's the Riga next to me. I don't know who's next to me. But I think the Riga is the guy in the back. You can see right there, I look back, I'm like, what are you radaring? These are the things that drive you crazy as an experienced player. Because we're at Tier 7, alright? There is absolutely zero excuse for a player to get to Tier 7 and not understand how things like radars work and you know, ranges and what their purposes are, switching between armor piercing and high explosive when they're, like, there's no excuse for that. Like, by the time you get to Tier 7, you've got hundreds of games played, right? Or at least you should. Alright? If you're going out and buying premium Tier 7 ships and jumping straight into Tier 7, that's one thing. But this is a Tech Tree heavy cruiser in the Riga, right? So he's got at least 100 games, probably, right? In that line. And you get radar at like tier 5. Meaning the guy should understand what radar is by the time he gets here, right? But here we've got the Alabama getting into a situation where he's being flanked by the Bismarck. We knew the Bismarck was there. He was spotted on the minimap, but unfortunately our Alabama just sits around and waits for him and gets absolutely kerblastered. And then we get the unfortunate shot of not being able to do really any damage to the Bismarck because apparently I didn't aim high enough. A fact that I'm going to try to rectify in this next shot. So we aim much further forward, much higher, trying to get shots on target. Bismarck takes a shot at us. We shrug that off because armor belt is a thing. And then, unfortunately, we get a shatter and 2 ricochets off of the frickin' guy. You gotta love it. But you can see there is an Edinburgh over here as well. We have a cruiser on the right flank that has decided that he needs to go all the way around the map. Alabama takes a shot at a broadside Miyoko, and, I mean, honestly, that Miyoko is lucky as crap to not just be sent to the Shadow Realm. But we're going to take a shot at the Miyoko as well, of course, because he already got slapped once. He doesn't want to get slapped again. He tries to turn. We did aim for the turnout, and we catch him with 1 Citadel, but unfortunately, in true Spartan fashion, we got to leave him with just enough to get away. Now, what I want you guys to pay attention to is the fact that we have the guy behind me, which I think we decided was the mines next to me, right? The Riga would have radared and then pushed up with that guy in the Alabama. So as I push forward, I want you guys to remember, like, pay attention to what happens here, right? That means that the guy behind me is in a mines. Mines has incredible DPM, has ridiculous HE and AP, okay? We're going to go ahead and line up the shot on this Bismarck over the top of the island, right? We take the shot, and we are absolutely going to finally get rid of the Bismarck. Getting our payback on the Bismarck. And then the Edinburgh showcases his hand a little too early, fires a shot at me. It's inconsequential. But what it does do is it means to me that that man's is going to sit in his smoke screen, and he's not going to go anywhere, right? Like, he's simply just going to sit there. Now, it's at this point, I think I get into chat and I'm like, oh man, you know what would be really useful right about now? As we come around the island? A radar for the sky and the smoke screen. Wouldn't that be something? But I digress. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because this Edinburgh has about as much sense as the Riga does. What do I mean? Well, you're about to find out. Now, we know that the Edinburgh has torpedoes. We know what the Edinburgh is trying to do, right? So we're going to use our sonar. We have 1.5 minutes of sonar, and I believe it has a 4-kilometer ship detection range, right? So as we close in, we should, in theory, be able to spot the Edinburgh inside a smokescreen prior to him being able to see us. Unless, of course, he's running his sonar, in which case we're all about to see each other. But he comes out of his smokescreen flat broadside, and honestly, this should be dead. Like, the fact that I don't get more than 1 Citadel with a British battleship armed with armor piercing on the broadside of a freaking Edinburgh is absurd. That man should have died. But it doesn't matter, because he's real bad at torping. He's throwing out single torp tube launches, and he doesn't know what he wants to do with them. And of course, we're running our sonar, so he's not even going to get close to hitting us with them. And then, of course, we get screwed once again, not able to finish him off. But the Chumfin does finish him off. Like, you can't make it up, folks. It is hilarious. But at this point, I'm feeling pretty good in the chat. I'm like, man, don't worry, fellas. I got you. The tier 6 is going to carry you tier 7s. It'll be fine. And we push into the cap. Now, we know that the George is left. We know that the enemy Ochakov is left. So we're going to try to put ourselves in a crossfire. If you look at their last known positions, they were running away from that left flank, right? You can see them all the way up there. You may not be able to see them in the top left corner. They were basically on the island, right? The land. They were doing a little shore leave up there. But Alabama will eventually come around the island. He will have them spotted. And when he does, I want to try to be in position that I can take advantage of it. Now again, one of the downsides is we just don't have the range to engage. So we have to close the distance. Fortunately, we're decently quick, so it's just a matter of time before we can get in range. as they are going horizontal and we are going directly at them, essentially. But as Georgia gets spotted here, we're going to finally get a chance to shoot him. Unfortunately, the rear turret didn't lock on in time. It wasn't at the right firing angle, but we do get a couple of shots out. We do manage to hit a couple of shells on target, and we ended up doing about 5,000 or 6,000 damage with those 2 shells, somewhere in that neighborhood. So can't really argue with that, right? Also, we managed to grab the cap, which is going to help us. We've got 1 kill. We've got 2 citadels. Ochakov comes out, begging for it. We get a free shot because we're behind the island, so he doesn't even see it coming until it's much too late. And by the time he turns, it's way too late. Down he goes. And we pick up the Confederate. And they had just fired at him, meaning that this Georgia is essentially free game as well. And he's going full broadside inside 12 kilometers, which is well within our range to easily land multiple shells and finish the man's off. And of course, he's still broadside. Dude's been sailing broadside the entire game. He ain't about to stop now. But fortunately, he doesn't have to worry about it any longer. So this is a prime example of what the Hood is best at, right? It's not the best at going in and tanking everybody all at once, but it is very good at repositioning and finding weaknesses and exploiting them. It's got decent concealment, good maneuverability, and good ability to change flanks as needed. And I think this was a good showcase. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you guys agree? And if you like what I'm doing, punch a like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.